Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ile, and I'm super excited to be joining you on the show once again.
Yeah, welcome back from
Good
your
morning,
leave.
Stella.
I'm very happy to have you back.
Yeah,
and the
right.
leave looks good on you. Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stella Iyaji.
Yeah. Well, it was an exciting moment, a time to reflect, a time to, go back and have some kind of reset, so that's
Are you sure it was
basically
only
what
reset
it
you
was.
had? Because you look very fresh.
Yeah, well, kudos
Mentally
to,
and physical reset.
kudos to my other half.
She did a
So
good job.
yeah, it was a good time, spending time with family and friends. Once again, people who, in fact, some of my friends who have not been able to meet in a very long time, even though we're all in the same
Yeah.
city and all that. So it was a time of refreshing, really, and an interesting one. All right, so on the show today, quite a number of issues. Let's take a look at the headlines. WAEG 2022, 76.3% candidates obtain credit in English, Maths, as WAEG releases results.
We will vote against those who ignore rivers. This is from Governor Wike.
Buhari approves Seplat's acquisition of ExxonMobil's $1.3 billion oil assets.
Commonwealth Games, athletes to get presidential reception, Dari.
All right, let's take a look at the details now. President Muhammadu Buhari has agreed to the acquisition of ExxonMobil shares in the United States of America by Seplat Energy Offshore Limited. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, in a statement issued on Monday, said his principal consented in his capacity as Minister of Petroleum Resources and in consonance with the country's drive for foreign direct investment in the energy sector. He said ExxonMobil had entered into a landmark sale and purchase agreement with Seplat Energy to acquire the entire share capital of Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited from ExxonMobil Corporation, Mobil Development Nigeria, and Mobil Exploration Nigeria, both registered in Delaware, United States. Adesina added that President Buhari had given ministerial consent to the deal, considering the extensive benefits of the transaction to the Nigerian energy sector and the larger economy. He said the president, in commitment to investment drive in light of the Petroleum Industry Act, granted consent to the share sales agreement as requested by the parties to the transaction and directed that the approval be conveyed to all the parties involved.
Now, the West African Examination Council, WAEC, has released the results of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination for school candidates. Head of the Nigerian National Office, Mr. Patrick Aragon, who announced the release of the results on Monday, disclosed that a total of 79,229 examiners, comprising 77,173 traditional examiners and 2,056 e-examiners, participated in the coordination and marking of the scripts. A total of 1.6 million candidates registered for the examination from 20,222 recognized secondary schools in the country, out of which 1.6 million candidates sat for the examination. Aragon disclosed that 1.7 million candidates with varying degrees of special needs registered for the examination, which was also administered to candidates from some schools in Benin Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, and Equatorial Guinea, where the Nigerian curriculum for senior secondary school is being used. Of the total number of candidates that sat for the examination in Nigeria, 1.4 candidates scored 89.79%. Results have been fully processed and released, while 163,418 candidates, representing 10.21%, have a few of the subjects still being processed due to some issues yet to be resolved.
Now, on political matters, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has declared that anybody who despises the political capability of the state will be treated accordingly. Wike stated this on Monday at the inauguration of the Orochiri-Woruko Waterlines Junction flyover by the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in Port Harcourt. Wike explained that the dynamics of contemporary politics had made it unpopular to just gift votes away without the assurance of deliverable benefit for the people. The governor said it will be difficult for any conspirators to upset the voting pattern of the state and support for the People's Democratic Party.
The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, has assured members of the historic Team Nigeria contingent to the 2022 Commonwealth Games of a presidential reception. Team Nigeria achieved its best performance ever in Birmingham since it started taking part in the Commonwealth Games in 1950, winning 12 gold, 9 silver and 14 bronze medals. Speaking with Team Nigeria athletes on Monday, Dare praised them for bringing the country into global focus for positive reasons. Meanwhile, the group chief executive officer of Oando PLC, Wale Tinubu, has announced that his company will give cash rewards to all Team Nigeria medalists at the 2022 Commonwealth Games.
All right, now let's take a look at some packages now. At least 9 people have been confirmed dead and over 600 others displaced by floods across 11 local government areas of Kano State. While visiting the recent disaster in Ajingi local government area, the executive secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency, Saleh Jili, said government is still locating other areas that are yet to be reported. Idris Jibrin reports on this.
Ibrahim Bala is one of the recent flood victims in Ajingi local government area of Kano State, whose 10-year-old daughter was killed, house and farmland destroyed after a 40-hour uninterrupted rainfall. He says he has no home, no farmland at the moment. It was unfortunate. It's really sad. We experienced rainfall for over 40 hours and I lost my daughter. I lost my home. I lost my farmland. As I'm talking to you now, I do not have anything. I don't know what to do. We are only calling on government to continue to assist us. Otherwise, we don't know where to put ourselves. As for the record before the State Emergency Management Agency, 6,417 people were affected by the flood, which also killed 9 and injured 9.
We had Kilu local government 306 with no casualty, Helena local government 62 victims with 1 casualty and 2 were injured. Lambata local government we had 1,175 and 3 were injured and 3 were dead and 5 were injured, including 3 small children with their mother carrying 9-month pregnancy.
Recently, the Ajingi Local Government Council confirmed that over 500 people were displaced by the flood, while 3 others have been killed.
We experienced the flood disaster in this local government, which resulted in the deaths of 3 people. There is Toranki, Karamakama, Ajingi, almost all the what in the Ajingi local government are affected. To say rather than to thank the government of Kano State and the ES for the same what brought this local government. We have nothing to say. We never experienced this.
Although investigation is still ongoing to identify other areas, but the State Emergency Management Agency is calling on residents to stay away from areas vulnerable to flood attack and report any incidents to the agency for immediate assistance. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
All right, thank you, Idris, for that report. From flood to increase in commodity items, an increase in the price of feeds, insecurity, activities of middlemen, and cost of diesel have been identified as factors responsible for the persistent increase in the price of eggs in the market. Poultry farmers in Kaduna say unless government intervenes to save poultry farms from collapse, there will be shortage of eggs in the market in no distant future. Let's take the report.
Eggs are naturally rich in vitamins B2, B12 and D. They also contain vitamin A and a number of other vitamins. Eggs are also essential in the growth of children who require them on a daily basis to optimal growth. However, in recent times, most families are gradually skipping this vital requirement due to the price increase. Musa Bala is the chairman Poultry Association of Nigeria, Kaduna State. He attributes the hike in egg price to the cost of feed and other poultry necessities.
We need to buy the day-old chick. A day-old pullet or chick that we used to buy at 100 naira is now up to 650 naira. A bag of feed of 25 kg that we used to buy at 3,000 is now 7,000, 8,000.
While the farmers cite insecurity and activities of middlemen as responsible for the cost of production, they also want the government to subsidize the feeds.
Sometimes you will see somebody will buy egg from us at the rate of 1,500 and be selling at 1,008. Or you buy from us 1,600 and be selling at 1,900. There are places that people even sell egg at 2,000 naira. One of the biggest challenges we are facing now, of course, like any other citizen of Nigeria, is the fear of insecurity. It affects my farmers seriously. Some of the farmers have to even abandon their farms because most poultry farms are situated outside town. We have cases of attack, 1 or 2 or 3 farms or more than. I'm just giving you the, but that's not the number.
So we're appealing to the state government, the federal government should try as much as possible to subsidize, especially this feed is one of the most important things. You buy feed today. 2 years ago, I was making more profit than now. 2 years ago, when a bag of feed was 2,700. Today, a bag of feed is 6,400.
According to them, if the government doesn't intervene, many poultries in Kaduna State may collapse.
In the eventuality of farm continue to collapse, we will be facing a lot of shortages of egg that is needed for proper growth of children and the provision of protein to almost every Nigerian.
The farmers further call on government to help them access their farms by improving security, especially in the outskirts of the city where most of their farms are located. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
All right, now let's take a look at health issues. The federal government says it is strengthening routine immunization as one of the means of safeguarding the lives of Nigerians, especially from infection and transmission of the dreaded COVID-19 disease. At the launch of Skills 3.0 strategy to accelerate COVID-19 vaccination in the country, the Federal Ministry of Health and the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 said that the launch will ensure that the vaccination of at least 70% of eligible population by the end of the year 2022 through the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and its partners. Take a look.
Skills 3.0 is an acronym for service delivery, communication, accountability, logistics, electronic management of immunization data, and supportive supervision. The launch of the strategy for the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination is premised on speeding up the level of uptake of COVID-19 vaccine to achieve and maintain herd immunity.
Most of the world that has been affected adversely has gone ahead and vaccinated almost the entire population. We've heard it, Africa has been lagging behind.
Skills 3 is important in that it allows us to look at immunization holistically. It allows us to bring COVID-19 into the routine immunization and the integration of immunization as a way forward to protect the health of this nation.
So we are very much aligned with the work of our sister agency, the MPHCDA, with all the efforts to deliver vaccines, COVID vaccines, as part of the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Delivering the keynote address, Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, Bas Mustafa, noted that the success recorded with the Skills 2.0 necessitated the acceleration of integrated COVID-19 vaccination and primary healthcare services across the country.
Nigeria has continued to experience changes in the factors that influence demand and uptake of COVID-19 vaccines. These changing situations are not uniform across the country. They vary from state to state and therefore require continuous review of our strategies for promoting demand and ensuring vaccines access and accountability.
In his remarks, the Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Faisal Shuaib, noted that strategic review showed that there has been an increased low COVID-19 risk perception which needs to be overcome while eliminating state-specific bottlenecks to achieve improved vaccine uptake.
It is for these reasons, among others, that the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 and the Federal Ministry of Health through the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has come up with the Skills 3.0 strategy, which we are here to officially flag off.
Minister of Health Ehanire Osage maintained that it has become imperative for the government to launch Skills 3.0 strategy, which entails the acceleration of COVID-19 vaccination to achieve more in confronting the virus.
This very important project is a major step in our common resolve to confront the COVID-19 virus and at the same time scale up routine immunization so that one is not being done at the expense of the other.
I have the singular honor and privilege to officially flag off the launch of the Skills 3.0 to the benefit of the people of Nigeria.
The launch of Skills 3.0 also birthed the introduction of the second dose of the booster vaccines, with calls on stakeholders to mobilize community members of eligible population to get vaccinated. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right. Now, drivers in the Federal Capital Territory have been called upon to adhere to traffic rules and regulations to curb the menace of bad roads occasioned by vehicular infractions. The Supervisory Council on Special Duties in Abuja, Emmanuel Iyan, made the call while speaking to our correspondent at AMAC headquarters in Abuja. Let's take the report.
Emmanuel Iyan further explained that the call became necessary, especially during the rainy season, where drivers are fond of creating diversions to ease movement, thereby disrupting traffic flow. Iyan added that drivers that refuse to adhere to the road rules and regulations will be fined from 50,000 naira upward, depending on the offense of the driver.
We place more emphasis on the rural areas than the city. The reason is that the Federal Capital Development Authority most times are in charge of the cities. We decide most times to put infrastructures in the interland, most especially where the FCT administration will not be able to get closed. And that is where the populace, the masses, are residing. And for us as a council, we believe that those in the satellite town already are enjoying all the goodies that is coming out of the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority. So it is beckoned on us that there are a very large crowd of persons who are in the satellite towns, who are in the local areas.
The Councillor on Special Duties, who said Abuja Municipal Area Council would continue to monitor the activities of road users in the FCT, also revealed that AMAC will broaden its operations and collaborate with other NGOs and agencies to achieve set objectives.
And like you rightly mentioned, the rain is already here. What we do is that we ensure that in all the roads we have put in place, even before this administration comes on board, there are so many roads that the Abuja Municipal Area Council has been able to put in place. Both tarred roads, for example, there is a road at Jikwe Junction. For you when you want to enter into the inner land inside of Jikwe, that road was constructed by Abuja Municipal Area Council. Again, if you go to where we have today, they have Akko ITEC. From the beginning of the express road to the ITEC was constructed by Abuja Municipal Area Council.
These efforts, the council believes, will lead to safer intra-city commuting and help ensure that cases of bad portions on the roads within the Federal Capital Territory are drastically reduced. In Abuja, Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News.
All right, thank you, Kabir Lawal. Now, Primate of the Anglican Church Nigeria, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, has dismissed apprehensions that the current security challenges may consume the country. The Primate disclosed this in Awka at the 60th birthday celebration of the Archbishop of Awka Anglican Province, Right Reverend Chibuzo Alexandra Ibezim, at the St. Faith Cathedral. Nduka, who spoke alongside Delta and Anambra State governors, contended that the failure of Nigeria is not the failure of God, adding that although the apprehensions are not to be wished away, Nigeria will surmount the present insecurity with time. They urge Nigerians to continue to contribute their quota by voting for the right leadership come 2023.
Absolutes, because this is the postmodern times. We are no more in modernity. We are even in modern period, in which everything is relative, including truth and authority. May God give us leaders whose eyes are upon the Lord. For such a time as this, God says, I know the plan I have for you, and I know for every family, for every man and woman, for the Church of God, and for this nation, Nigeria, in spite of all the challenges that we are facing, God has his eternal divine plan for us.
There is no doubt that in our nation, Nigeria, as it is today, it is not easy to shepherd the people. Because the times are difficult, families are finding it difficult to eat. We do not need to make mistakes. Mistakes have been made in the past. Because the more we have sanity in this place, the more the economy of the people of the Southeast will grow. We cannot afford to destroy our economy with our own hands.
Christians, we must come together. Well, we must do what? Come together. Insecurity will go in Anambra. Known and unknown government have no space in Anambra. I outlined when I will celebrate. When we tackle insecurity and get into almost near zero.
All right, we'll go for a short break, and now when we return, the show continues. Please stay.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. And now it's time for us to take a look at the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. We have a guest reviewer in the studio, Mukhtar Suleiman, a public affairs commentator, to give us perspectives on some of the stories that made the headlines. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right. So let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story on Daily Trust newspaper says how FG injected 247 billion naira subsidy to salvage low electricity generation. It has the riders that says 1 trillion naira power consumed in 16 months. Then poor payment trajectory can be reversed, says experts. You also have other stories above the lead story. 670 cases, 4 deaths recorded as monkeypox hits Lagos, FCT, 22 others. Buhari approves $1.3 billion ExxonMobil's oil assets acquisition by Seplat. Dare Nyame, 3 others out of prison 4 months after state pardon. You'll find details of that on page 6, and the pictorial there shows you voters checking their names ahead of today's election in Kenya. The election is going to be, I think, mostly it's a two-horse race, sort of. You have the vice president or deputy president currently, William Ruto, and the opposition leader Raila Odinga slugging it out today. 22.1 million Kenyans are to elect new president. Below that, you have Kwara couple chains woman for 2 weeks over witchcraft. And then we'll vote against those who ignore rivers. That's according to Governor Wike. Bandits kill FIRS boss, chase woman into mosque, abduct imam in Niger. So these are some of the stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper has a lead story that says, peace talks suffer. Wike descends on Atiku's men. It had the first rider says, you cannot go to Abuja and hold meetings against me. Wike tells PDP chieftains. Rivers governor comfortable with my closeness to Atiku. This is coming from Senator Lee Maiba. Then we have, we will use our votes against those who think Rivers doesn't matter, says Wike. And beneath that, we have a story that says, Shiites, security agents clash in Kaduna, 6 killed. Ondo, Amotekun intercepts 168 invaders hiding under cows. There's also another story there that says, kidnappers kill 3, abduct women, children, senator's relative. Lagos Ibadan traffic, hoodlums create tunnel, extort desperate motorists. And above the masthead, we have the story that says, NUPRC, federal government, disagree over mobile acquisition by Seplat. WAEC releases 2022 results. Nigeria, 3 others top World Bank debtors list. We also have another story just right above that. Agri-budgets hit 874 billion naira. Food imports go up 7.8 trillion naira. Those are the, okay, there's also the story here. Shoyinka knocks pirates confraternity for mocking Tinubu. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Quite interesting stories there. The lead story says, Yoruba leaders to Tinubu, your victory in 2023 certain. Southwest APC unfolds reconciliation plan. Ruling party's candidate will be different, says Keamo. You also have Shoyinka slams pirates, confraternity for mocking politicians. Dare Nyame, others regain freedom. 2022 WAEC withholds 365,564 results. The next one says how to cushion Nigeria's rising debt profile by LCCI. You have also a pictorial there shows you the arrests of some immigrants from the northern part of the country moving to the southwestern part of the country by Amotekun yesterday. You also have PDP postpones NEC caucus meetings as Atiku Wike rift deepens. Nigeria lost 400,000 barrels of crude oil. That's daily to theft. Yeah, 400,000 barrels of crude oil daily to theft, says Silva. So these are some of the stories on the front page of the Nation.
Now on to the Leadership newspaper. The Leadership newspaper has a lead story that says, Nigerians resort to cheaper goods as inflation decks purchasing power. It has a rider that says, food inflation rises by almost 100% in 10 years as Nigerians pay more for imported goods due to high exchange rate, lose purchasing power to economic realities. Then we also papers. WAEC releases the 2022 WAS results. Then we have lawyer asks Lagos CJ to probe illegal eviction of court bailiffs. US releases new African policy to counter China, Russia. And just below the masthead, we have PMB intervenes, approves Seplat Energy's acquisition of ExxonMobil shares. And above the masthead, we have a story there that says COVID-19, only 3 states have attained 50% vaccination rate, federal government. I'm leaving Commonwealth Games with new record to my name, Amusan. These are the major stories on the leadership for today.
All right, so let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper before we get perspectives. The lead story says, Wike Atiku camps return to trenches. You would find the writer says, PDP postpones NEC National Caucus meeting over Atiku's absence, fear of Ayu's removal. Postponement not because of Atiku. He prepared for the meeting. Aid insist. We will use our vote against those that say rivers don't matter. Wike snubs Atiku. Sanwo-Olu, Wike has sent strong message by inviting me to Rivers. Wike in talks to work for Tinubu's election, says Rivers APC. Now, you also find how public officials leaked classified documents in $9.6 billion court case to P&ID. Again, Ohaneze Afenifere blast Buhari over insecurity. And then at the below the pictorials, well, the pictorial basically shows you the commissioning of a project in Rivers State yesterday by the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I'm sure others will be thinking, oh, these are people belonging to different political parties. But again, when it comes to, you know,
politics,
or sometimes you may say in the interest of Nigerians, it's good that they come together regardless of political divide.
Okay, some persons say sometimes it's personal interest though.
Well, well, it's strong message anyways, according to Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos, that Wike is sending a strong message by inviting him, you know, to Rivers State to come and commission this project. And we are hearing also the APC in Rivers State is saying that Wike is, you know, in talks to work for Tinubu.
I know about a week ago, he also met with some APC people, members of the APC who visited the state.
Wike has virtually been meeting with virtually everyone. I mean, people from Labour Party, NNPP.
He has met with a lot of people.
So some, I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that. You'd also see another pictorial there that shows you the, you know, final release of former governor of Plateau State, Joshua Dare, and that of Taraba, Jolie Nyame, who were granted pardon by the president some months back, about 4 months now. At the bottom of that, you see IPOP accuses Ebubeagu of harassment, depopulation of Igbo youths. Brazilian producers on why countries like Nigeria should open borders for food. You have also Anglican Church urges truce between Wike and Amechi. Military kills 8 bandits in Plateau. So these are some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers. Let's take perspectives on some of these stories. Like we told you, Mukhtar Suleiman, public affairs commentator, is with us in the studio to give perspectives to these stories. Well, thank you for joining once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the governor of Rivers State is everywhere on the papers this morning. Well, not just today, but he has been on the papers, he has been in the media, you know, for quite a while now, since after the primary election of the People's Democratic Party. And he's now being accused by some that he is now using this should I say, misunderstanding, or as a bargaining chip, of some sort, because every now and then you hear threats here and there, and now we are understanding that he's even giving conditions, to the People's Democratic Party for peace between him and Atiku to reign. He wants the chairman of the PDP, Iyorchia Ayu, out. So, what's your take on this?
Basically, I think if we look at politics anywhere in the world, politics is a game of interest. How much chips you have, what you're bringing to the table, often determines your negotiating power and what you can get out of it. So it's more or less like a service exchange of goods and services of some sort. We know, well, it's an open secret anyway, that after the 2019 elections, the party was hanging precariously financially, and Wike stepped in, was able to put things in order, coordinate everybody, and led the party all the way through for the last 3.5 years now. And he felt entitled to the presidential ticket. When he didn't get that, he felt entitled to the VP slot. He also didn't get that. So at this point, I think he's at this crossroad of, does he stay where he has invested so much time and money, where the money came from? That's open for debate. But does he stay where he has invested time, money, energy, and all of that, or does he leave after having held the party for 3+ years now? So I think it's that dilemma. That's where he is in. I don't think he would come to the APC. That would be very shocking if he does, because of how much influence and ground he has, beyond the investment even, how much influence and he has built in the PDP. If he comes to APC, he won't have that much control.
But that influence is now being questioned, isn't it? If he wasn't able to clinch the presidential ticket of the PDP,
still couldn't get
the VP slots, then what is it?
The VP slot is often at the discretion of whoever the card carry member is. I would remember that something similar happened back in 2007 when Musa Yar'Adua won the primaries, and he was supposed to announce Peter Odili as a running mate, but he wasn't comfortable with it. So during his acceptance speech, he skipped the part where he was supposed to announce Peter Odili. So I think it's just that thing about it's at the discretion of the candidate who they want to work with, and they know that they have that power, and because they have that power, they always want to exercise it. So Atiku, for me, I think Atiku is a bit cautious, Wike was going to be a blessing and a bane at the same time for him, I think. We all remember the back and forth that Obasanjo had with him. And they say nobody likes the taste of their own, let's say. So Wike was going to give him that as well, perceivably. But another side of it is, I personally think Wike would have been a bit of a loyalist. I think he has those traits of those kind of people who's going to give you headache, but they wouldn't really. They just want to have a voice of their own, and they don't want to be bullied. But this is just a personal opinion. I'm not campaigning for anybody, please. Let me just put that out there. Specifically, I'm not campaigning, but I'm just observing the playing field and everything else. But we'll see how it all goes out.
All right, the campaigns are supposed to start in September.
Yes.
And at this point, the PDP doesn't appear as if it has his house in order yet. I mean, look at the first rider on the Punch. Wike is saying, you cannot go to Abuja and hold meetings against me. Wike was speaking to PDP chieftains. And before now, we heard that it was those same chieftains that were trying to settle their aggrieved parties in the PDP. So do you think that between now and the elections, or between now and when the campaign starts, the PDP will be able to solve all its internal problems so that they would be able to go into the campaigns as one party that is together?
You know, power is a very fickle thing. There's how long you drag something, it wears out. There's how decisive you get, it shows. I feel if Wike wanted to make a point, he should have made a point by actions and not the words, not the continuous repartee they've been having, the back and forth, the banter, the media stunts and all of that. So far, I think he has done the best I think he can do. And the longer he drags the issue, the more people are just going to get tired and say, this guy is just throwing a tantrum and all of that. Let's just move on with our lives. So I think he's at that point already where he's either about to run out of whatsoever power he has now, not even the steam, like the people he's even influencing, because if the chieftains are coming to Abuja to have a meeting against him, in quotes, like he said, then it means that he's losing grip of them already. And it's only how long he can drag the whole matter before everybody will just move on. And at that point, it will be a tad late for him. So I think it's time for him to look at his playing deck and know what he's going to do moving forward. Because when the campaign starts properly, I think he's really going to, it's not going to bode well for him that much, because there's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of media buzz covering the campaign over the conflict that they're having.
All right then, well, we'll see how it all plays out at the end of the day. Well, another story we have seen is the Buhari approving 1.3 billion naira, $billion, I beg your pardon, ExxonMobil's oil assets acquisition by Seplat. We've seen how that is also causing some kind of reactions by some quarters, certain disagreements as to whether or not the president should be involved with this, whether he should be the one giving the approval, or is the midstream, downstream,
upstream regulatory petroleum regulatory commission,
should be the one to be responsible for this, and so on and so forth. This is too early for us to be having this, especially on if you look at the privatization of NNPC.
I don't really have that much of an opinion about the Exxon Mobil purchase, or the Seplat purchasing their shares, because I've not really followed it that traditionally. However, I think I would just want to say, let's not forget that the president is still the Minister of Petroleum, and so there are certain rights he has, both as president and as the minister. So within that purview, I think maybe that is where he's exercising some of his power from. I refuse to believe that he would act out of context or this, but like I said earlier, I've not really followed up the story that traditionally, so I've not really formed an opinion about it yet. But I think immediately after.
Well, ordinarily, if a president has given his approval, should a commission be insisting on its refusal?
It's a democracy at the end of the day. There's separation of power in the country. The president has his power. There's an extent and limitations of the president's power, and there's also extent and limitations.
Especially since NNPC now operates as a private
sector, and they have their own personal internal policies, and how that merges with the Petroleum Sector Act and all of that. So I think it's just that separation of power, extent and limitations, and I'm sure they all understand themselves at the end of the day.
All right. There's a story on the Punch newspaper. The story has been ongoing for a while now, but then it says, Ondo Amotekun intercepts 168 invaders hiding under cows. Now, this is a group of people that were traveling from the north to the south. First of all, would you regard those people as invaders, considering that they are Nigerians traveling from one part of the country to the other?
I saw that story yesterday, and it was unsettling for me. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday evening? I think I saw
Actually, the arrests have been ongoing for
it has been on for a couple of days.
So I saw
in large
that,
numbers.
and it was really unsettling because, on one part, I personally I've always had an issue with how most of the northerners migrate. There is this crude way of doing it, where it's either they are traveling in a big trailer of yam, and somehow
suspicious.
Yeah, it always seems suspicious. I've moved around the country a lot. I was born and brought up in Warri, Delta State. I moved from Warri. I went to Minna to do my secondary education, stayed there for a while, moved from there to Zaria, did my entire tertiary education, moved from there to Minna, worked in Minna for a while. Like, I've moved a lot, then came back to Abuja. And it's okay to migrate. I have a problem with the way it's done, but however, for Amotekun to tag them as invaders also has its own implication, because they are in the country. Yes, we understand that there is an ethnical divide that currently exists in the country, there is this big issue, large issue, which I largely associate with resource-based. It's a resource-based issue rather than a religious or an ethnic-based issue, because there's limited resources, and which is usually called, most of them are migrating because there's less resource to actually take care of them in the north, and they have to move down south, especially with the pastoral farming.
Yeah, the story said that they were all going for different jobs and, so businesses.
It's a bit, for them to be tagged as invaders within their country is absolutely wrong. I feel like that's a wrong political terminology. In fact, they shouldn't even be arrested in the first place if they were moved. But there's a big but again. We've seen the issue that we've seen the current insecurity issues in the country and how most of these bandits are moving. Before you know it, Abuja is currently not safe for us, even with the news that we're seeing in the country. So you can't blame them for being on the defensive on that side. The president, I think at the central level, the government needs to do more in terms of unification, reminding people that the things that separate us are infinitesimal to the
so that
things
also
actually
brings to bear the role of the media in all of this. The way we use words for our headlines and all of that. Do you think that there's a need to look at that and, perhaps reconsider the way we use words? Sometimes, yes, you hear certain words, Northerners bomb Igbos. There's a way we give connotations to some of these things. So yes, yesterday I watched that story and how the commander of the Amotekun is raising concern about how the suspicious manner, just like you said, some of them under the truck, and then you have motorbikes on top, and then cows like that. So it raises a lot of suspicion. But before we come to a conclusion, I believe that investigations should have been carried out, isn't it? And then ascertain who the real identity of these people are. We are not wishing away the tendencies of insurgents, terrorist bandits, and all that to take advantage of some of these things and move in the same manner. But what would you say about the need for investigation and the involvement of police? Because I cannot remember seeing police officers with the Amotekun and the rest. And I understand that the Amotekun was supposed to complement the effort of our conventional security officers.
Before I get into the conversation about security infrastructure, I think that aspect you mentioned earlier about the role of the media and all of that, it's quite pressing. I usually make this example whenever I'm doing a training. I usually say, if I stand in front of you now and I tell you that if you eat mango, you fly, you will laugh at me. I sound stupid. But if I am on channels and I tell you, or I'm here and I tell you, if you eat mango, you will fly, you would contemplate it. You will not outrightly say, I am stupid. You would want to either Google it first. So there's that thing about the way the media operates, and it's that subtle way of convincing people. So we need to check our subtle sensationalism in media practice, because while it's not outrightly sensational anymore, because most of us can actually point it out these days, it's now a little bit, it's now a tad subtle. We now pick it up from maybe what the person said, and then we use that as the headline. Whereas we know that that is not the truth. We know that there's a better way.
That's not the intention of the person itself.
We know that there's a better way to say that statement. So instead of saying Amotekun arrest invaders, we could have rewritten that in a way that would be more true, let me put it that way, that would speak to the reality of the issues. Yes, we know the Amotekun tag them as invaders, but should the media do the same thing?
Especially
so that's usually where the debate is.
The police in Ondo State said that they were still trying to profile each and every one of those that were on that truck, that they were traveling. So at that time, it meant that they hadn't concluded. It meant that they were still working on finding out the names of the people, what indeed they were going for. So it was too early to even call them immigrants or even invaders.
I have a problem with even profiling them in the first place. I've traveled, like I said, we travel. Do the police stop us and profile each and every one of us? Where are you going to? We are not. This is not a cross-border check. We're not passing immigration or customs, where you say, okay, let me see your valid identification before you come here and all of that. It's one country. Until such a day as when we wake up and they've separated the country, we are still Nigerians. So I have a huge problem with even the profiling and all of that. It's a big issue for me, because then that means we'll stop every vehicle crossing through every state, profile each person, and that will actually thwart economic progress. And so that's a big issue. Then with the aspect of investigation before conclusion, I think that also needs to play a huge role in media practice. I think sometime ago when I was here, I was saying that one of the issues I have with practicing journalism is we report the news, we don't follow up. I can guarantee you next week, nobody's going to check this Amotekun story anymore to see how it concluded, if the investigation is still on, if those people have been freed, were they sent back? Because if they were sent back, that becomes another issue on its own entirely again.
In fact, we've not heard about what happened to the previous arrest that was done.
So that we need to really do a lot of follow-up in most of these issues, actually.
All right. Well, we are seeing also that Shiite security agents clash in Kaduna. 6 are killed, and that's according to the Punch newspaper. That's also another disturbing story. Does this protest have to always end in killing and, bloodshed? Because 6, that's a huge number of people.
The Shiites and the federal government issue is actually a very fragile topic to actually delve into very deeply. There are some things that you've heard off the cameras and you can't see, and there are some things that you don't know the entire story about. However, I can say this. I think a few weeks ago, I was at Banex, and I saw the Shiite people protesting for the travel ban to be lifted against El-Zezeki, and I could see police escorts following them as they did their protest, which is actually the constitutional way. Yes. Yeah, ideal way of protest. So whatever it is that deteriorated the issue in Kaduna State is open for investigation and debate. I don't know what caused the clash, but I can say this: and this is bold of me to say, I think those the grievances of the Shiite people is well founded. It is their constitutional right to protest, whatever it is that you want to protest. But I think we need to check that attacking security officials, and also need to check how security officers retaliate when there's an attack. I usually say it this way: whenever things like this happen, it's like my younger brother coming to me and punching me in the stomach. Yes, it's painful, but how do I retaliate? Do I give him a punch with my own might as well?
Or maybe do you carry a machete?
Yeah, because I'm stronger than him. Let's even say the same punch, but do I use the whole of my might to punch him as well? So we need to check that, because yes, he's throwing a tantrum, and he's my younger brother. So he hits me. I have to check how I caution that, so that it doesn't deteriorate into a situation where people keep dying. Because security officials need to check themselves. If security officials don't check how they retaliate in most of these issues, we will have another Boko Haram incident now, and especially whenever they have to intervene in most issues. I think training needs to be done for our security officials, because I can remember vividly that there was a research I read about how Boko Haram
but how do security officials exercise restraint when there's extreme provocation to make sure that you actually respond? Some of these protesters can actually be very violent. So in that scenario, I mean, some of them could go as far as perhaps, I'm just saying, attempting to snatch the firearm of a police officer.
I agree with you. Now, there are situations, there are extenuating circumstances where things deteriorate so bad, and we need to, but before we begin to use bullets, there are processes first. It's like the same, the argument you're giving me now is the same argument that the white policeman is using in the US as a reason for shooting a black man in a black neighborhood. I didn't feel safe and all of that. But there are other ways you could have actually disarmed these people, because they don't have arms. If they have arms, yes, go extreme, because you are a human being as well. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect the country as well. So yes, if they have arms, go extreme. But if they don't have arms, there are rubber bullets. There are other ways. The water cannons, the same thing they use to disperse the NSAS protesters. There are so many other ways to actually go about these things that would not lead to people just dying.
All right. Before you go, there's something I really wanted to talk about. The Kenyans are going to the polls, and then we have 22.1 million Kenyans to elect new president today. Something I find interesting there is the fact that they said you can vote with an identification card or a passport. Now we are approaching an election and we have done our registration, voter registrations. Some people are saying that they were unable, not just saying, we saw that some people were on the queue and they were unable to register at the time it was suspended. Do you think that it's something Nigeria can consider, maybe not necessarily in the next election, but a situation where you can actually vote with any identification card that you have or your passport?
I find it undemocratic that I find it like it's a strategic way of disenfranchisement. That's how I see it. The fact that you have to subject us to another biometric screening, another form of registration for us to go and cast our franchise. I feel it goes against my constitutional right to vote, because those systems are not, we have the NIN, we have the BVN, we have international passports, we have driver's license. All of these have designated numbers that's been issued to you. They are tied to your identity, your biometrics, and then I have to go through that's the same process again, to go and get a card again separately to prove that I am to vote again. I think it's a big issue. I've been following up the Kenya elections a lot. A few of my friends are there monitoring the elections, and I find it's one of the most beautiful democracies in Africa currently that I've seen. The process has not been as tedious as the way the Nigerian process is.
Could they probably have what we don't have? Maybe a central data bank that Nigeria
we have. I think, do we not have a central data bank? I think we have a central data bank, Fa.
Do we?
I personally think we do. Maybe we don't. No, but I think we do, because
I
feel like everything is,
I guess maybe
everything is tied.
Is it why we have the NIN SIM registration and all those kind of...
if we don't have it, then it shouldn't be that much difficulty to get it. Why do I say that? You can use any of those means of identification as a means of identification for other things, except for voting.
All right.
That means it's verifiable. That means there's a way to verify if it's authentic or not.
Okay.
So I feel like that's... it should be easier to actually
we have to put a hold on this now. For now, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your perspectives with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our guest reviewer is Mukhtar Suleiman, a public affairs commentator, giving us his perspectives on the stories on the front pages of our newspapers today. We'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, it will be top of the hour, taking a look at the headlines again.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. It's top of the hour. Let's look at the headlines again. Yami Darie finally released from prison 3 months after pardon.
AP suspends flights to South Africa over aviation fuel visa delay.
Buhari approves Seplat's acquisition of ExxonMobil's $1.3 billion oil assets.
Commonwealth Games, athletes to get presidential reception. Dari, that's the sport minister.
Now let's look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has agreed to the acquisition of ExxonMobil shares in the United States of America by Seplat Energy Offshore Limited. The special advisor to the President of Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, in a statement issued on Monday, said his principal consented in his capacity as Minister of Petroleum Resources and in consonance with the country's drive for foreign direct investment in the energy sector. He said ExxonMobil had entered into a landmark sale and purchase agreement with Seplat Energy to acquire the entire share capital of Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited from ExxonMobil Corporation, Mobil Development Nigeria Incorporated, and Mobil Exploration Nigeria Incorporated, both registered in Delaware, United States of America. Additional added that President Buhari had given ministerial consent to the deal, considering the extensive benefits of the transaction to the Nigerian energy sector and the larger economy. He said the president, in commitment to investment drive in light of the Petroleum Industry Act, granted consent to the share sales agreement as requested by the parties to the transaction and directed that the approval be conveyed to all the parties involved.
All right, now, former governors of Plateau and Taraba State, Senator Joshua Darie and Jolie Nyame, have been released from Kuje Correctional Facility in Abuja. This is coming 3 months after they are pardoned by the Council of State, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, on April 14, 2022. A source from the correctional facility told our correspondent that the former governors were set free around 2:15 p.m. on Monday. Also released were 3 other inmates from Suleja Custodial Center in Niger State. Efforts to get the spokesperson, Nigerian Correctional Service, Abubakar Umar, for confirmation was not possible, but an official in the department said he was in a meeting. Nyame was to serve a 12-year jail sentence for diverting 1.64 billion naira during his tenure as governor of Taraba, while Darie was serving 10 years imprisonment for 126 billion naira fraud. The council's decision to release the duo had generated a lot of controversy.
Now, citing the increasing cost of aviation fuel and scarcity, as well as the delay in the issuance of visa to intending passengers, Air Peace has suspended its flights to South Africa. The suspension, which takes effect from August 22, is for a period of 60 days, the airline said in a notice. Daily Trust reports that domestic airlines had been forced to adjust their schedules over the recurring scarcity of jet fuel, as well as the skyrocketing price of the product. But added to this, according to Air Peace, was delayed by the South African authorities to issue visa to prospective passengers, which was said to be affecting the load factor on Air Peace's flight to Johannesburg. Air Peace in the notice expressed optimism that the issues which warranted the suspension would have been addressed before October.
Now, the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Darie, has assured members of the historic Team Nigeria contingent to the 2022 Commonwealth Games of a presidential reception. Team Nigeria achieved its best performance ever in Birmingham since it started taking part in the Commonwealth Games in 1950, winning 12 gold, 9 silver and 14 bronze medals. Speaking with Team Nigeria athletes on Monday, Darie praised them for bringing the country into global focus for positive reasons. Meanwhile, the group chief executive of Owando PLC, Wale Tinubu, has announced that his company will give cash rewards to all Team Nigeria medalists at the 2022 Commonwealth Games.
Now let's take a look at some packages. At least 9 persons have been confirmed dead and over 6,000 others displaced by floods across 11 local government areas of Kano State. While visiting the recent disaster area in Ajingi local government area, the Executive Secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency, Sally Jili, said government is still locating other areas that are yet to be reported. Idris Jibrin brings us the report.
Ibrahim Bala is one of the recent flood victims in Ajingi local government area of Kano State, whose 10-year-old daughter was killed, house and farmland destroyed after a 40-hour uninterrupted rainfall. He says he has no home, no farmland at the moment. It was unfortunate. It's really sad. We experienced rainfall for over 40 hours, and I lost my daughter. I lost my home. I lost my farmland. As I'm talking to you now, I do not have anything. I don't know what to do. We are only calling on government to continue to assist us. Otherwise, we don't know where to put ourselves. As for the record before the State Emergency Management Agency, 6,417 people were affected by the flood, which also killed 9 and injured 9.
We had Kilu local government 306 with no casualty, Helena local government 62 victims with 1 casualty and 2 were injured. Lambata local government we had 1,175 and 3 were injured and 3 were dead and 5 were injured, including 3 small children with their mother carrying 9-month pregnancy.
Recently, the Ajingi Local Government Council confirmed that over 500 people were displaced by the flood, while 3 others have been killed.
We experienced the flood disaster in this local government, which resulted in the deaths of 3 people. There is Toranki, Karamakama, Ajingi, almost all the Ajingi local government are affected. To say rather than to thank the Executive Governor of Kano State and ES for the same what brought this local government. We have nothing to say. We never experienced this.
Although investigation is still ongoing to identify other areas, but the State Emergency Management Agency is calling on residents to stay away from areas vulnerable to flood attack and report any incidents to the agency for immediate assistance. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
All right, thank you, Idris Jibrin. Now, an increase in the price of feeds, insecurity activities of middlemen, and cost of diesel have been identified as factors responsible for the persistent increase in the price of eggs in the market. Poultry farmers in Kaduna say unless government intervenes to save poultry farms from collapse, there will be shortage of eggs in the market in no distant future. The report.
Eggs are naturally rich in vitamins B2, B12 and D. They also contain vitamin A and a number of other vitamins. Eggs are also essential in the growth of children who require them on a daily basis to optimal growth. However, in recent times, most families are gradually skipping this vital requirement due to the price increase. Musa Bala is the chairman Poultry Association of Nigeria, Kaduna State. He attributes the hike in egg price to the cost of feed and other poultry necessities.
We need to buy the day-old chick. A day-old pullet or chick that we used to buy at 100 naira is now up to 650 naira. A bag of feed of 25 kg that we used to buy at 3,000 is now 7,000, 8,000.
While the farmers cite insecurity and activities of middlemen as responsible for the cost of production, they also want the government to subsidize the feeds.
Sometimes you will see somebody will buy egg from us at the rate of 1,500 and be selling at 1,008. Or you buy from us 1,600 and be selling at 1,900. There are places that people even sell egg at 2,000 naira. One of the biggest challenges we're facing now, of course, like any other citizen of Nigeria, is the fear of insecurity. it affects my farmers seriously. Some of the farmers have to even abandon their farms because most poultry farms are situated outside town. We have cases of attack, 1 or 2 or 3 farms or more than. I'm just giving you but that's not the number.
So we're appealing to the state government, the federal government should try as much as possible to subsidize, especially this feed is one of the most important things. You buy feed today. 2 years ago, I was making more profit than now. 2 years ago, when a bag of feed was 2,700. Today, a bag of feed is 6,400.
According to them, if the government doesn't intervene, many poultries in Kaduna State may collapse.
In the eventuality of farm continue to collapse, we will be facing a lot of shortages of egg that is needed for proper growth of children and the provision of protein to almost every Nigerian.
The farmers further call on government to help them access their farms by improving security, especially in the outskirts of the city where most of their farms are located. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
The government says it is strengthening routine immunization as one of the means of safeguarding the lives of Nigerians, especially from infection and transmission of the dreaded COVID-19 disease. At the launch of Skills 3.0 strategy to accelerate COVID-19 vaccination in the country, the Federal Ministry of Health and the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 said the launch will ensure the vaccination of at least 70% of eligible population by the end of the year 2022 through the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and its partners. Let's take the report.
Skills 3.0 is an acronym for service delivery, communication, accountability, logistics, electronic management of immunization data, and supportive supervision. The launch of the strategy for the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination is premised on speeding up the level of uptake of COVID-19 vaccine to achieve and maintain herd immunity.
Most of the world that has been affected adversely has gone ahead and vaccinated almost the entire population. We've heard it, Africa has been lagging behind.
Skills 3 is important in that it allows us to look at immunization holistically. It allows us to bring COVID-19 into the routine immunization and the integration of immunization as a way forward to protect the health of this nation.
So we are very much aligned with the work of our sister agency, the MPHCDA, with all the efforts to deliver vaccines, COVID vaccines, as part of the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Delivering the keynote address, Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, Bas Mustafa, noted that the success recorded with the Skills 2.0 necessitated the acceleration of integrated COVID-19 vaccination and primary healthcare services across the country.
Nigeria has continued to experience changes in the factors that influence demand and uptake of COVID-19 vaccines. These changing situations are not uniform across the country. They vary from state to state and therefore require continuous review of our strategies for promoting demand and ensuring vaccines access and accountability.
In his remarks, the Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Faisal Shuaib, noted that strategic review showed that there has been an increased low COVID-19 risk perception which needs to be overcome while eliminating state-specific bottlenecks to achieve improved vaccine uptake.
It is for these reasons, among others, that the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 and the Federal Ministry of Health through the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has come up with the Skills 3.0 strategy, which we are here to officially flag off.
Minister of Health Ehanire Osage maintained that it has become imperative for the government to launch Skills 3.0 strategy, which entails the acceleration of COVID-19 vaccination to achieve more in confronting the virus.
This very important project is a major step in our common resolve to confront the COVID-19 virus and at the same time scale up routine immunization so that one is not being done at the expense of the other?
I have the singular honor and privilege to officially flag off the launch of the Scales 3.0 to the benefit of the people of Nigeria.
The launch of Scales 3.0 also birthed the introduction of the second dose of the booster vaccines, with calls on stakeholders to mobilize community members of eligible population to get vaccinated. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, thank you, Aisha Salihu. Now, drivers in the Federal Capital Territory have been called upon to adhere to traffic rules and regulations to curb the menace of bad roads occasioned by vehicular infractions. The Supervisory Councillor on Special Duties in Abuja, Emmanuel Inyang, made the call while speaking to our correspondent at AMAC headquarters in Abuja. Let's take a look.
Emmanuel Inyang further explained that the call became necessary, especially during the rainy season, where drivers are fond of creating diversions to ease movement, thereby disrupting traffic flow. Inyang added that drivers that refuse to adhere to the road rules and regulations will be fined from 50,000 naira upward, depending on the offense of the driver.
We place more emphasis on the rural areas than the city. The reason is that the Federal Capital Development Authority most times are in charge of the cities. We decide most times to put infrastructures in the interland, most especially where the FCT administration will not be able to get closed. And that is where the populace, the masses are residing. And for us as a council, we believe that those in the satellite town already are enjoying all the goodies that is coming out of the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority. So it is beckoned on us that there are a very large crowd of persons who are in the satellite towns, who are in the local areas.
The Councillor on Special Duties, who said Abuja Municipal Area Council would continue to monitor the activities of road users in the FCT, also revealed that AMAC will broaden its operations and collaborate with other NGOs and agencies to achieve set objectives.
And like you rightly mentioned, the rain is already here. What we do is that we ensure that in all the roads we have put in place, even before this administration comes on board, there are so many roads that the Abuja Municipal Area Council has been able to put in place. Both tarred road, for example, there is a road at Jikwe Junction. For you when you want to enter into the inner land inside of Jikwe, that road was constructed by Abuja Municipal Area Council. Again, if you go to where we have today, they have Akko ITEC. From the beginning of the express road to the ITEC was constructed by Abuja Municipal Area Council.
These efforts, the council believes, will lead to safer intra-city commuting and help ensure that cases of bad portions on the roads within the Federal Capital Territory are drastically reduced. In Abuja, Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News.
All right, we'll take a short break, and now when we return, we're going to the discussion segment of the show. Please stay.
My people, how do you feel when you see bulldozers demolish beautiful but illegally built private houses, estates, or plazas? Agony and pain. That is exactly what the FCT administration feels also. No responsible government is happy to inflict pain on her people by demolishing any property. Are you planning to acquire a piece of land? Avoid buying land from indigents or local chiefs or any other unauthorized source, as doing so could ruin your valuable investment. Only the Minister of FCT allocates land in Abuja. So, to acquire a piece of land in Abuja, go to the Abuja Geographic Information Systems, popularly known as AGIS, and obtain the relevant application form. Also, visit the FCDA Mass Housing Department to check the genuineness of land title before you acquire any property in any of the housing estates in Abuja. Do the right thing. Don't be a victim. This message is from the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital here in Abuja, right from Trust TV's headquarters. Now, true to their words, the Nigerian Armed Forces in recent weeks have recorded huge successes in the fight against terrorism and banditry across the country. The latest was the NAF airstrikes that killed a notorious banditry kingpin, Abdul Karim Lawal, alias Faka Faka, and many of his followers in Safana local government area of Katsina State. What are the significance of these renewed efforts by the security agencies in curbing the insurgency ravaging the nation? We have joining us a security consultant, Stephen Okore, here in the studio, and also we have the retired director of Department of State Security, Mike Ejiofor, who joins us virtually, and also our correspondent who is in Katsina, Abdullahi Amadi, all going to be talking to us about this recent onslaught by the armed forces. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Always glad to be here.
Yeah. All right, Abdullahi, let's begin with you. If you may, give us a background of the situation right now in Katsina, looking at the fight against banditry and since the killing of this commander of Boko Haram.
Well, thank you very much. In the last 2 days, Saturday to be precise, I think the Nigerian military and of course security operatives have shown some kind of resilience where Air Force fighter jet attacked terrorist camps in Katsina State. The first and the most important one is that of Marina of Zaka district in Safana local government, where Abdul Karim alias Kacha, a terrorist kingpin, and his relations and of course members of his gang were we should not forget that Karim alias Kacha was a very strong and very important figure as far as terrorism is concerned in Katsina State, because he denied so many people access to their farmlands. He also forced many people to cultivate farms for him, including those that does not belong to him. They farm and harvest all of that for him. He was also a very strong figure, even among the terrorists themselves, along Bakari, Safana, Dusuma, Ghana Axis. So neutralizing that group is something that is very, very key to the people of Katsina State, especially on the issue of security, which has ravaged almost 12 local governments as we speak. Even recently, there are some kind of attacks. The most recent ones on Eramam village, Mompashi local government Yargoji in Kankara, Dansauni in Batagarawa, Shola quarters in Kaduna City, and Chicheria quarters all in Kaduna City. So all these have been deserted, and people were killed, wounded, dispossessed of their belongings. Just last Sunday in Kanchi town, there was an attack, and of course, a housewife and 2 children were separately abducted at Nasanta village, some few meters away from the battalion of several people were abducted, including women and children. The village has been deserted since last Saturday. Honestly, the situation is alarming.
All right, Yamadi.
People are desperate. I can hear you.
All right, Yamadi, we have heard about the attacks that you have talked about. On that same day where this kingpin was killed, we also heard that the security operatives also were able to rescue about 6 persons that were abducted. Now, before last Saturday, did you witness this kind of military operation in that state or in those areas?
No. People are even angry with the military because communities will be attacked, terrorists will operate for several hours. In spite of all the distress calls, there will be no response from either the military or the police. The people here are already happy with the place other than any other security agency. The rescue operation we are talking about was that of the village in Tanja local government area of Kaduna, where 20 military, police and vigilante rescued some captives along that axis. By and large, we can say people are seeing some signs of relief, even though the terrorists are still changing positions and tactics.
All right. All right. Thank you, Abdullahi. Just be on hold there. We will I'd like to hear from Mike Ejiofor, former director at the DSS. Well, you've had our correspondent there in Katsina. What do you think about the significance of this attack, the killing in particular of this Abdul Karim Fakafaka? We understand that he's a mastermind behind the attack on the convoy of the president, I think just before, I think it was on Saturday or so. And we also understand that he usually will invite other terrorist groups, to come and then to carry out attacks in separate places and all that. So how significant is this?
Yeah, it's a welcome development and actually very significant because when you take the leadership of such a group out, it becomes very difficult for them to operate. And I must commend our military for taking that action, possibly because of the directive given to the president, given by the president, that he has actually given them full freedom to operate. I think I'll be asking myself that question. Why our efforts cannot, take action and bomb this thing in their location? The argument has been that when you have some of these victims, the captives, if you go and bomb them, you have a collateral damage. But I think before they come into town, the most important thing for us to do is to identify as they are coming into town, make through area surveillance and drones, and take them out before they come to kidnap people. And I think that's the way to go. I am encouraged that the military is taking that action, and we must be sustained.
All right. Well, one wonders that if we have such a leader, such a bandit leader or terrorist leader in that location, the information we're hearing about, him inviting other terrorist groups to come and join him to carry out attacks and all that. What does that say about the freedom of movement of the terrorists along that route, and how is it that they are able to move around freely?
Yeah, not necessarily that they will move around freely. You see, well, like I said when we started, it's a significant development and that leader has been taken away. Don't forget that Osama bin Laden and some of these terrorist leaders have been killed, and that has not put an end because they have full soldiers. So the most important thing is for us to continue to fix and smoke them out from their enclave and monitor movement, because at times too, I begin to wonder how you see vehicles, roadblocks, even though we don't have much of the roadblocks, police checkpoints in the north as we have in the south, and yet these people move in droves unchecked. Take the issue of the Kuje Correctional Facility. How did they come there undetected, passing through all the police checkpoints, the military checkpoints, and operated freely for hours without being arrested? And I'm not aware that some arrests have been made. So we must also get to the root of that attack, and some of the attack on the brigade of guards and these other people to fish them out. You know, once they're arrested, they will serve as lead in the investigation to bring out the other people who are involved.
Okay, Mr. Ejiofor. When what happened in Katsina happened on Saturday, a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, even on social media, they commended the military, commended the Air Force, and some of them even went as far as saying that this is the Nigerian military that they have always been proud of. This is the military that has done exploits in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and all of that. So, and now they went to Katsina this Saturday, and they were able to do this. A lot of people are asking, why is it not sustained? Why haven't they been doing this before now?
Well, I think they should be in a position to answer, not me, because I have always advocated that for us to win this war, the Air Force in particular must be involved. Because when they take these people out, then the army can now take the ground, after which the police will come in to those secured areas. By mere interpretation of the deduction, you know, like the president said, he has given them full hand, full free hand to operate. I don't know whether they were being restricted. But again, you know that the international community, like when we got our Tucano aircraft, they were giving specific order on which they carry out the operation to avoid the human rights abuses and others. And I believe that if they had gone ahead, you know, without restriction, possibly the international community would have accused Nigeria of their human rights. But we cannot throw their hands under the guise of human rights and see our people being destroyed, economy being destroyed, life being destroyed on a daily basis. So I think it's a right decision that the government has taken to bring this thing to an end, or even bring it to an end, to bring it to a tolerable level where people can carry out their businesses.
All right. With what happened in Katsina, do you believe that is something that can be sustained, and that while we have military men in Katsina doing this, we can also have military men in Sokoto, Zamfara, so that those in Katsina are not chased out of Katsina and then they move into another state, and you know?
It should be operation carried out all over the country, because if you drive them out from Katsina, they will go to Zamfara. So we must go after them anywhere they are and pick them out. You know, we have some relative peace, even if it's not completely related in Borno, for instance. And because of the intense activities of the military in the northeast, these people just dispersed to the northwest. So we'll continue to pursue them until we achieve peace. It must be sustained, that's the position.
Okay. All right. Well, let's come back to the studio. Stephen Okori. Well, this is quite an interesting one, quite commendable. However, the government have raised certain reservations before now about issues that has to do with collateral damage as to why they are not deploying the full force of, fighter jets in the Northwest in particular, for instance. So how do we minimize collateral damage as we, begin to engage this terrorist in this manner?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me once again. I think that the use of technology is very key in trying to see how to minimize collateral damage, where innocent people or citizens are not killed. I followed a U.S. veteran. He's about 76 or 77 years of age. I met him here in Abuja, a retired Air Force officer. He has his company that does these combat operations, especially when it has to do with the forest, with his planes. He told me that he can station in the forest, station in the air, and be able to know who is a bandit, know the kind of weapons that they use, and all that right there in the air. He can even take shots of these criminal elements in the forest. He has the capacity to be able to differentiate the bandits from innocent citizens while in the forest. And while also up there, he can be able to pick the bandits or terrorists by eliminating them.
How do you do that? That would definitely require some very, very high-tech gadget, isn't it?
Very well. You see, I was so shocked. I met with him. He did a presentation to me and all that. It's the use of technology. Technology has gone beyond.
Technology show, for instance, some of these bandits mix up with the villagers, right?
Exactly.
So and they dress alike. Some of them, they don't cover their faces or anything. So with that technology, actually say, oh, this Mr.
Is it the weapon that
bandit,
identifies the terrorist or what?
The focus here is about trying to see how to achieve this while dealing with bandits in the forest. Not
the ones that mix up in the communities.
For instance, the kidnapped train passengers, for instance, they are in the forest.
But with abductees?
Yes, with adoptees. So what he said is that he can be able to pick this from the videos that we usually see when they send to us to watch. You could see the bandits clearly, and all that. So he gave me that presentation, and I saw that with the aid of technology, sophisticated technology, we can be able to see how to reduce the collateral damage when such operations are carried out.
This is very crucial because we've had cases where, our, fighter jets, what in the military parlance they call friendly fire.
Yeah.
A community is mistakenly hit,
exactly.
By fighter jets, maybe for whatever reason, I don't know. But, so that becomes very, very worrisome. If, is it the problem now about the know-how, or is it the kind of gadgets that we use or the kind of fighter jets that we use?
I think there's a lot needs to be done about trying to see how to improve the officers or personnel that operate these fighter jets. It has happened not once, not twice, where they kill innocent citizens when they carry out their operations. So I think that there's need for them to be trained and retrained, especially when they embark on such operations, because missing the enemies, and targeting innocent citizens, it calls for concern, it calls for worry, So I think that there's more they need to do, in terms of in the area of training, so that as they target, they don't miss it, because it's very important. The last time in Katsina, they killed a lot of innocent citizens in the community there.
Yes.
So,
okay, let's hear from Yamadi. Yes, we have these air operations going on and the rest of them. We had how the Chief of Air Staff has also made certain redeployments and the rest of them. But that's on the air. On the ground, we need troops as well. So from what you are seeing in Katsina, do we have such presence of military that engage in some of these on-the-ground operations of maybe clearance operations and combing the forest and the rest of them? How much of presence? Hello, Abdullahi? Abdullahi Amadi, are you there? All right. Well, because as much as we deploy, in the air, we cannot just rely on the air support alone to be able to deal with some of these things. So, how do we ensure that there's a synergy in the efforts in the approach, between the air support and our troops on the ground?
Yeah, I think there's need for a strategic communication between the air and the ground troops. Because most times we see that situations where the ground troops embark on operations like that, they complain of not getting that support from the air. But with this recent command that the Chief of Air Staff has given to the various commanders, I think that we have started seeing results, because this incidents that happened in Katsina, of course, there were ground troops as well. It wasn't just air operations alone. So there's need for the synergy of all the service commanders to see how to work together to be able to carry out the attacks that they have successfully carried out.
Before now, they have complained of the bandits or the criminals having more sophisticated weapons. They have complained. There have been lots of complaints.
Yeah.
However,
yes.
when they wanted to take that action in Katsina, they did,
yes.
and they got results. Which means that, and a lot of Nigerians are saying that if they want to do it, it can be done.
Yes.
So what is hindering that?
We've talked about a lot of issues. Number one, the willpower. Number two, corruption. Number three, sabotage within the security sector, and all that. So with what has happened, we are seeing that they are more committed now, and the willpower is there, and there's synergy in what has happened. And most importantly, I think the strategy they employed in trying to see how to carry out these attacks or operation is not was not made known to the public. Usually you see the military coming to the media and all that. Before they begin to divulge the strategies that they want to use in carrying out such attacks on the enemy of the state. So I think they have tried to see how to be clandestine in these operations, and that's it. What has succeeded in bringing up the result we have seen.
All right. Well, let's go to Mike Ejiofor there. Now, there's been this issue still on the issue of synergy. In the aftermath of the Kuje prison attack, we've heard how some prison officials have raised concerns about the lack of involvement or inclusion of the prison's boss, in the security briefings, the National Security Council meetings, and the rest of them. Are we seeing as much synergy as we should? When you talk about people like, or agencies, agencies like the immigration, the customs, the NDLEA, and all of that, how involved are they in this fight against, insurgency and banditry? Because like the attack that was carried out by the Operation Hadirin Daji in the northeast, by the military, we understand that one of the terrorist commanders, Ali Modu, started as a drug baron, before he now became an armed robber and then a Boko Haram member and the rest of them. So, but if you have if you have agencies like the NDLA, say for instance, fully involved, perhaps he might have not gotten to that point. So, in terms of involvement of other security agencies aside the military in the counterinsurgency and banditry, how involved are they at the moment?
I think the change of leadership of the drug law enforcement agents. There have been some successes at the airport, within the land, and you know that these So I expect that the government enforcement agency should also come in to see how they will collaborate with all these people to reduce the inflow and usage of drugs. Immigration, in charge of migrants coming into the country, they also need to promote the synergy between all the agencies. No one agency can do it alone. So I think there's need for synergy, there's need for cooperation, there's need for all the agencies to come to see how we can bring this to election. The activities of politicians should also be monitored because some of them, engage in these drugs, giving their supporters and the talks drugs. Fortunately, the process is being sanitized, as you can no longer go and carry ballot boxes and stop ballot boxes or change figures because of the levers that INEC is using. But all that they will make attempts. So we should make sure the drug use is controlled in the country because that some these criminals and what they do.
All right. Well, Stephen, still talking synergy. Are you concerned, or how concerned, I would say rather, are you with the issue of lack of synergy? This issue of National Security Council briefings, that we do not have some heads of security agencies involved. Is that a problem?
I think it constitutes part of the problem because how you get in, how is the president, for instance, that chairs such a council, how does he get reports of other heads of security agencies that we have in the country? We have about 27 ministries and agencies that are in charge of security in this country. And when they go for security briefings and all that, we hardly see up to like 10 of them in that Security Council meeting.
But apart from them not even being part of the Security Council meeting, there was also interagency rivalry among the security operators, which we have heard hampers this fight against insecurity.
Yes. You see, I think the leaders or the heads of these security agencies forget that the goal is one. It's a common goal, It's not an ego or credit taking something where you think that the credit goes to your own agency or organization because you have played an active role, So I think the heads of these security agencies need to let their other personnel know that the goal is common, and which is to have a secured and a safe Nigeria, So I don't think there's any need for or reason for rivalry,
But are they treated as such? Because that show of leadership should come from the top, isn't it? Not from among the heads of the security agencies.
Yes, I've attended functions where they talk about this synergy thing, and you see the heads, saying that there's synergy and all that. But when you begin to look at it, when it breaks down, take it down to the other ranks, you see that there's no that common synergy. We have seen situations where police and army are having fracas, police and DSS having fracas and all that. I don't think we should be experiencing that now, looking at what we have, bedeviling Nigeria, So I think there's need for synergy from the top to the bottom, and it should be practiced. It should not be what they should just come and begin to read in their speeches.
All right. With what happened in Katsina,
yes.
Do you see it as a one-off? Because, there was hue and cries and people were shouting that their lives were in danger, and then this happened. Do you see it as something that's going to continue?
It should continue. And how will it continue? It's for the government to be able to get more of these fighter jets, because we don't have enough of it that the fight can go on simultaneously, having it in Zamfara, having it in Port Harcourt, or having it in Sokoto at the same time, So for it to happen at the same time, simultaneously, they should have more of these fighter jets, have more of personnel, because we lack the number of personnel to be able to carry out this task, So more of the fighter jets, more of technology, more of sophisticated weapons, more of boots on the ground, you know. So all this needs to come to play for us to have this continuous result.
All right. So Abdullahi Hamadi, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking about the presence of military troops on ground. Aside the air support that there is right now, which is quite commendable, how about ground support in terms of complementing whatever the Nigerian Air Force will be doing? Are you seeing much of a presence?
Well, that is what people are saying, and of course what they are calling for, that the airstrike should be complemented with foot soldiers so that they can clear and that they have cleared the terrorists from their enclaves. What we are seeing now is only the air and to some extent police, military and vigilante operations in some states. But that synergy between ground troops and of course the Air Force is very, very much needed, and it can go a long way in neutralizing these terrorists in their own enclaves.
Okay.
Needed and important.
All right.
Yamadi, has the victory or the success of Saturday, has it given some residents of the state some kind of relief, however small?
Indeed, people are feeling some kind of relief. It is apparently clear on the cases of the residents of Kaduna that they are very much happy with the military operations on that Saturday. But yet, it is rainy season in this part of the country, almost in every part of Nigeria. Access their farms. They can no longer access their farms. They want to participate in this rainy season activities, but yet they cannot do that. They cannot organize either religious or social gatherings in their own localities. So there is a lot of things, and much needs to be done.
All right. Thank you, Abdullahi.
Please return to these communities.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. Let's get final thoughts from Mike Ejiofor, who is there joining us virtually. What are your final thoughts? How do we sustain this onslaught?
Well, I think it should be continued until we achieve success. I believe that with this, to get results. So I want to wish our military very well, and they need the support of the people by volunteering formation. It's not just people sitting there say it's military business. Security is everybody's business. They need to cooperate with our military, give them information, and let them see how it is.
So much, Mike Ejiofor, for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us. Stephen Okore, thank you so much for joining, security consultant. And also Abdullahi Hamadi, our correspondent in Katsina. With this, we've come to the end of the session for today. You can do well by joining us again tomorrow for another time on the program. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on all our social media platforms, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for spending this part of your morning with us. My name is Stella Iyaji. Do well to join us same time, same station tomorrow. For now, do have a pleasant day.